Okay, so in today's article, there are several people in an online chat room, okay? And they're talking about this idea. Should you be friends with your coworkers? Now, Greg is the first person to speak in this chat room. He says, I get along with my coworkers, but they asked me to hang out with them this weekend. I'm not sure if I want to become real friends with them. What do you think? Okay, so Greg says that he gets along with his coworkers. Let's look at this phrase, get along with first. When you get along with somebody, you have a friendly relationship with that person. For example, Sarah and Dave don't get along with each other, so let's not invite them to dinner.
When A gets along with B, 代表 A 和 B 相处融洽，也是处得来的意思。I get along with my sister, but I don't get along with my brother. 或者是我们也可以说 My sister and I get along with each other, but my brother and I don't.
Okay.
那 A 和 B 如果相处得非常融洽，我们可以说 A get along well with B, or A and B get along well with each other, like I get along well with Aaron.
Okay. Well, now let's look at the noun coworker, because that's who they're talking about getting along with. Coworker is spelled C-O-W-O-R-K-E-R. Coworker. Now, a coworker is someone you work with, or someone in the same workplace as you that has a similar job to your job. For example, Spencer leaves the office to eat lunch with his coworkers during the week.
Coworker 就是同事、同僚，也就是 colleague 的意思。Colleague 怎么拼呢？ C-O-L-L-E-A-G-U-E. So for Greg, he gets along with his coworkers, 但是他不知道下班之后该不该跟他们 hang out 聚在一起。
Okay, so one important thing we should note is about the letters C-O in that coworker. C-O, when you put it in front of a word, it usually means together.
Together. Like coexist.
Exactly. You exist together.
Right.
Okay, now let's continue on. Greg is asking how the other speakers in the conversation feel about being friends with their coworkers.
So Greg isn't sure if he wants to spend time with his coworkers outside of work.
That's right.
That's why he's asking for advice.
Exactly. Now let's find out how Wendy feels about this. Here Wendy says, in my opinion, you should become friends with your coworkers. Okay, now I wonder why she's doing this. We're going to find out in a minute. Okay, we used the phrase in somebody's opinion here, and we're doing that to show that what that person is saying is only what they think about something and isn't necessarily true for all people. So Wendy is saying that she would become friends with her coworkers, but maybe not everyone feels that way. This is just her opinion. Here's an example sentence. In my opinion, we shouldn't throw a surprise party for Ella. I think we should ask her what she wants to do.
Opinion 是意见 ，in one's opinion 代表的是就某人的意见看来。当你想表达自己的意见的时候呢，可以用 in my opinion 来开头，代表这是你个人的意见，别人不需要全部接受。所以回到文章里头 ，Wendy 建议 Greg 跟同事当朋友。
Okay, so here's why Wendy thinks she should become friends with her coworkers. She says, after all, you'll have to spend a lot of time with them at work.
That is actually true. People who work together do spend a lot of time together.
Exactly. Now, she does have a good point. You do want to have friendly relationships with people you work with. Otherwise, you might not like going to work.
Does she say anything else?
She sure does. Here, Wendy gives us an example from her own life. She says, I've always enjoyed going to work because my coworkers and I all genuinely like one another.
Genuinely 这个副词呢，其实就是 really 真的的意思。
Now, I also genuinely enjoy going to work. I learn new things at work, and I have a lot of fun filming videos like this. Now, what about you, Elsie?
I genuinely love this too.
Excellent. Okay, so we know how Wendy feels. Now we're going to hear from someone else. What does Andrew think? Here, Andrew gives his opinion. He says, I agree with Wendy.
Oh, so that's two people who think Greg should be friends with his coworkers.
Yep.
Does Andrew say why he agrees with Wendy?
Yep. Here, Andrew tells Greg, you might be in high-pressure situations at work, and knowing that you can rely on your coworkers helps. Okay, so Andrew starts by mentioning high-pressure situations. The word pressure is a noun here, and it's spelled P-R-E-S-S-U-R-E, pressure. Pressure is a way of working or living that causes a lot of stress, anxiety, or worry. Now, high pressure means that these situations will cause a lot of these negative feelings. Here's an example. Tony is under a lot of pressure. He has to finish his projects and study for his exams at the same time.
Pressure 这个名词是压力的意思。When somebody is under a lot of pressure， 代表某个人的压力很大。那这个字是一个不可数名词哦。Sometimes I'm under a lot of pressure because of my work. What about you?
Of course, everyone who works has to deal with a little bit of pressure sometimes. Now, the important way is how you deal with it. How do you deal with pressure?
Maybe I go exercising.
That's a good idea. Exercise relieves a lot of stress. For me, I probably eat, which is
But
not
don't
good.
eat too much.
No, that's not a very healthy way to deal with pressure.
文章中呢，我们用到 high pressure， 它是一个复合形容词哦，代表高压的。So when we are in high pressure situations, we need someone to rely on.
Okay, now here's why Andrew thinks you should be friends with your coworkers. He says it's helpful if you can rely on your coworkers. Rely is a verb. It's spelled R-E-L-Y, rely, and it means you can trust or depend on somebody to do something that they're supposed to. For example, Harriet relies on her parents to drive her to school and home every day.
Rely 这个动词是依赖、依靠。To rely on somebody or something 代表是依赖、依靠某人事物。
Okay, now we often rely on our friends to help us when we're having trouble.
So Andrew thinks if Greg's coworkers are friends, he can rely on them if he needs any help.
Exactly. Now, here's a different opinion. Kyle speaks next, and he says, I prefer to keep my work life and personal life separate. Okay, so Kyle prefers to keep his personal and work life separate. Separate is an adjective. It's spelled S-E-P-A-R-A-T-E, separate. That's a confusing word to spell sometimes. Remember, there's two A's in the middle. Okay, when you keep two things separate, you make sure that they don't influence or affect each other in any way. It's kind of like saying that you have two different lives. One work life, one personal life, but these two never meet. Now here's an example of separate. Please keep this fish in a separate part of the refrigerator, as it will make the other food smell like fish.
Separate 这个形容词呢是分开的，那它也可以当作动词来使用，代表是使分开。To separate A from B， 将 A 和 B 分开来。I kind of agree with Kyle.
Okay.
I try to separate my work from my personal life. And why does Kyle think it's better?
Well, let's find out. He says things can get competitive at work, which could damage a friendship.
Competitive 是竞争的，那竞争者、竞争对手，我们说 competitors. Sometimes it really gets competitive at work. So if you are a coworker and you are friends and competitors at the same time, it might be awkward.
That's right.
可能会有点尴尬。
Okay, so this is very true. If you're friends with people at work, you might lose a friendship if one person gets a raise and you want a raise but you don't. or if you're fighting for the same promotion.
Yeah, why do you have it? Why don't I have it?
Exactly. That hurts a friendship sometimes. Now here, Kyle continues by saying, it's better to keep your relationships with your coworkers polite but professional. So Kyle believes your work relationships should be polite but professional. Here, professional is being used as an adjective. It's spelled P-R-O-F-E-S-S-I-O-N-A-L, professional. When you describe somebody or something as professional, you're saying that they are well-trained and good at their job. They make the company look good because they are good at their work. Here's an example. This report doesn't look very professional. Why did you write it by hand instead of typing it?
Professional 这个形容词是专业的。那如果我们把字尾 al 遮起来，我们看到的是 profession， 也就是职业这个名词。那教授的英文怎么说呢？同学们都很熟悉，叫做 professor。他们的前半段都是一样的。
Okay, so we've heard from Greg and Kyle and Wendy, and there was one other person we talked to, but now we're going to hear from one more person, and that's Victoria. Now, here's what Victoria thinks. I think you can be friends with your coworkers, but don't try to force things. Okay, what Victoria is saying here is that you can be friends with your coworkers, but you don't want people to feel too much pressure to be your friend.
I got it. Don't try to force things. 不要强迫，顺其自然。So if you happen to have a coworker that gets along with you, you can make friends with him or her.
Yes.
That's for sure. But if you don't really get along, don't force it.
Okay, now here's why Victoria is saying that. She continues by saying, after all, you might have nothing in common. Okay, now if you have something in common with somebody, you enjoy doing the same things or you have the same interests. For example, Kate and I have a lot of things in common, like running and hiking, so we spend a lot of time together.
A and B have a lot or a lot of things in common 代表 A 和 B 是有很多的共通点 But A and B might have little or nothing in common 代表的是 A 和 B 可能共通点很少甚至没有 So my best friend and I have a lot in common. What about your best friend and you?
Of course, we do have a lot of things in common, but like a lot of people, we also have things that we don't have in common. And that can make friendship a little bit tricky sometimes, but because we're best friends, we make that work.
And make it more interesting.
Okay, so if you have nothing in common with your coworkers, you don't need to be friends with them.
You should still be polite and professional though.
Of course. Now here, Victoria finishes up this conversation. She says, if some of your coworkers have similar interests, there's no reason why you can't become close friends. Now here we use the adjective similar. It's spelled S-I-M-I-L-A-R, similar. Now when two or more things are similar, they are almost the same or almost exactly alike. Here's an example. These two shirts are similar, but the sleeves on this one are a little bit longer than those ones.
Similar 这个形容词呢是相似的、相近的，但不是完全相同哦。They are not exactly the same.
Exactly. Okay, so Victoria thinks there's nothing wrong with being close friends with your coworkers.
These opinions are all quite different.
Yes, but one thing should always be the same. Even if you don't get along with your coworkers, you should always act politely and professionally with each other at work. That means everyone can still get along and do the work properly.
Right.
Okay, let's finish up today's article by discussing our own opinions in today's For You chat section.